What's good with y'all, man? Controversy in the building, man. This is the YMDR podcast. Thank y'all for tapping in with us. We over here just getting it in, man. Just doing what we need to do. Alright, y'all. So, all I feel like, this morning, hopefully y'all morning going okay. It's cold over here like a mug. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. It's so cold. I ain't even step foot outside because it's just like, man, it's just freaking crazy cold out here. So, I just been chilling, making art in the house. So, yeah, it's been getting some other different things together. So, yeah, y'all, we just been chilling pretty much. But y'all. I feel like what we can talk about, as far as um other different things have gone. I think I have told y'all about just a lot of just updates in my life or just certain things that pertain to YMDR kind of as they have came. Um, but I did want to make sure that I share with y'all just a introduction of just my situation that happened to me as a person when I was doing YMDR, because it wasn't just that YMDR was, me doing it and building it up. It was a lot of other trials and tribulations that were entailed. So I just feel like I need to tap in and let y'all see that and hear that for what it need to be. So yeah, y'all, like ultimately, I think I've explained it before on like YMDR. Um, might have explained it before on YMDR. What is it? News a little bit. My story in some cases. If y'all haven't been able to tap in with that, y'all should be able to when it comes out. In general, but yeah. For me, y'all, as far as my journey goes with doing YMDR, I definitely wasn't in a good state of just doing my thing like that, and building it up. There was some trials and tribulations. I had a lot of just mental things going on, kind of as I was progressing, kind of living with somebody who pretended that verbal abuse was not something that affects people and stuff of that nature. And so um, I think I've already told that side of that story, but that's the reason I guess I say it this time, because that was also what kind of happened in the midst of the situation while I was there. And yeah, there was a lot of other different things that kind of transpired. Um, but I think one of the things that transpired was that I might have said this already, but if I haven't, I'll let you know. So I had been, drugged by somebody, wandered out in the snow and got frostbite. And yeah, ultimately, um, that I tell people that, and they might not know how it happened, and I don't really know the person either how it happened. So, a lot of people, ask me like, well, if you could, you should try to, you know, figure out who did that and who caused that in the midst of the situation. And when I try to tell people about it and kind of bring it up, I'm like, well, I really don't remember the person who did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember the person who did it, and I don't remember how it happened in general, and not really. I don't think that was the only thing that happened in that either. I remember something else that kind of transpired as well that was a little jacked up in the midst of it. I also had been touched on, by a um, male who was of, kind of like in the sector of LGBTQ. And he technically, like, kind of had his way, like, with me in some case, kind of like made me like do something kind of fucked up in the midst of that situation. And that happened before, right? That happened before I got drugged and wandered out in the snow and got frostbite. And because I was coherently just out of it, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how it happened. But I remember my church friend had told me something about it in that regard. And I was like, yeah, like my brain just didn't know how to process that. It was definitely a little fucked up of a situation. So, yeah, it wasn't something that I think I was able to, wasn't able to know that that was something that happened. But at the same time, um, it was what was there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, y'all. What I will tell y'all, or just put out there in the midst of the situation about the concept of toxicity, um, is that a lot of people have to understand the idea of how toxicity works. I mean, I think this is coming from a person who kind of has a healed concept to the reality of toxicity and what it kind of represents. So, if you somebody who don't know that concept or whatever, like you don't have to take it like it's negatively me saying this, but it's just me kind of putting a concept on it. Is toxicity, when you can speak about it or come from it from a healed perspective, what you really see is in this world today, like toxicity has just became something that people kind of gravitate to. They think that it's something that they are supposed to be, whether that be on social media, whether that be on TikTok, whether that be on this. Toxicity keeps people like in this state of constant reality of constantly, doing things to kind of do this or doing things to kind of do that and cause a lot of confusion and uproar. So I think that's where a lot of the toxicity is kind of coming from with stuff and what people are utilizing it for. It's becoming just a very constructed reality of people just trying to make it into what they feel that it is. That is, destroying people and causing harm to people. And a lot of people have grown to technically like it. If we're really putting this out here and kind of giving it a concept, people have grown to like toxicity and also use it as a sense of excitement and attraction. Um, and so, for some of us who are more in a mindset of trying to heal and process through things, a lot of us are not really able to handle the people or handle certain things that have to deal with people valuing toxicity. Um, and I don't think this is coming from a place of trying to be negative to people who choose toxicity, but this might be coming from a place of how people are learning what it actually is causing type stuff. You know what I mean? Because, when I think about just the reality of, how toxicity has became and just what I really kind of point my finger on, what I'm seeing from it and stuff and what people are kind of valuing from it. Um, what I see is that the world is saying to themselves that in the midst of this toxicity is something that they need around. And this is more like the generation Z sort of people. They're thinking that that's technically something that's okay to be around, and they kind of showcase it, whether they're 20 years old or whether they're 30 years old. It just seems like a lot of people are growing into this place of valuing the toxicity of being this way or valuing a man who is toxic in certain concepts of these ways. So um, I think, one of the things that people have to sometimes realize about toxicity is once you know it and learn it from a healed perspective, you can give a very deep concept to why um, it no longer is something you be around as a person. For me, the reason I, seem like someone to most people as a weird person because I don't get involved with people who are toxic, or I don't try to be around toxic people, or I don't try to gravitate to toxic energy, whatever they might call it in this aspect, is mainly because I have learned how toxicity works. You know, I have learned how when you are toxic, what particularly happens and what particularly is being done in the midst of it. Because my experiences from my mother and just probably other different experiences, it has led me and given me a little bit of game on the construct of how toxicity works. Even though I am not with someone who is like my girlfriend or anything, it's given me a very good curve to really understand where toxicity kind of rears its ugly head at. You know what I'm saying? So I think what I could tell somebody, the first concept of it that they can get from it is that toxicity will first and foremost play a lot of mind games with you. It will make you believe something that is here, something that is there. It will just like mentally try to play, as many mind games with you as it can. And you will have to decipher what it is that's making sense of it, or what it is that it is trying to communicate or do. And that's one of the reasons why, for me, as a person who values his mental stability, like, that's the reason why I would never just be involved with someone who is valuing toxicity, because what we have to realize about it is that those mind games are actual mind games of your mind being played with. And if your mind is being played with in that context, you have to learn to be somebody who can say, well, do I really want somebody to mess with kind of like the last layer of understanding I have in my mind if I know I will mentally crash from said person doing this sort of thing to my mind? You know, I know that people might like toxicity and think that that is what I need to be involved with. But if I have a little bit of a piece of energy left in myself when it comes to this toxicity, I won't let this happen. I won't let this turn into what it seems like it's turning into. So, that's one thing I can say, that kind of just comes up in the midst of, your issues of dealing with toxicity, is that it's all over the place. It tries to go all over the place and plays mind games. So you have to be well aware of that when you are engaging with it, or you're with somebody who has that concept. So another concept that I would put out there about toxicity as well also is that if we're going to be all the way transparent, um, toxicity will also have a concept of, you know, uh, trying to make you look like the bad person. Like the way kind of toxicity works is it like kind of, the mind games is one thing, but it also tries to make you look like the person who's really out of your mind when it's really the other person. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one way you can kind of look at it when you look at certain scenarios. Some people have boyfriends who do that. They blame it on the girl, and then they say, oh, well, she did this and she did that. And so toxicity has a way of doing that, like in the midst of it, and kind of blaming it on somebody who is this way because of a particular thing that they've done, etc. And you have to be somebody who can more or less see that, when you're going into that concept of the reality of it, when you're really boiling it down to, what's going on in the midst of it, um, which is another reason why toxicity can be fucked up, because it's like, why would we believe that, you know, we need to be blamed for everything that we're doing in the midst of a situation, while also having to deal with someone just playing mind games with us, so our minds can self destruct. Like that's another reason why I don't think toxicity has a sense of healthy concepts with it in it, and why it can be a little, you know, uh, destructive in those ways. So I just think, yeah, like that's one thing, you can watch out for, or just that comes up in the midst of toxicity as well. Um, so yeah. So y'all, also, one thing that I'll tell y'all just in the midst of toxicity that I've learned about it, um, and how it has grown into what it is. Like, you know, one of the things that I really like think about in the midst of it is that um yeah, when you really like boil down, toxicity's roots, and when you really start to see it, on the confines of how it affects you as a person, um what you start to really see is that there is no void of changing. You know what I'm saying? Like, people can be rooted in toxicity and it can be a root of no change. You feel me? It's a root of no difference, no root of concept. It's like a continuous cycle of doing the same thing that is negative over and over again. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense, when you really think about it, because I know a lot of people have grown to appreciate or think that toxicity is something that, you know, is okay to glorify. Especially, when you think of certain people who are in toxic relationships or toxic situations. We have clinged to this idea that, hey, look, world, like, if my life is a wreck, let me show you how fucked up my life is. And see, my life is this fucked up. It's like I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying my life being fucked up. Look, guys. And what that really says, inside of the charisma of it all, like what it really communicates, is that the person is suffering harder and longer, and they do not want to communicate it from this real place because they feel like it's okay that they are suffering in this way. It's okay that they are, you know, making the Instagram world or the Facebook world see into their toxic traits and abilities. They are making that look like it's okay and it's all right. When in, reality concept, like when you really start to think about it, like, why would being hurt be all right? Why would communicating that you are dealing with an abusive man or an abusive situation be okay, in your eyes? A lot of that is just not pointing to a true or real reality. It's pointing to a concept or an idea that you're trying to basically cover up because you don't want to communicate that you're really hurt right now, that you're really hurt. You know what I mean? And you're using kind of like the grip of social media and other different things to really try to, you know, make your pain look, glamorized almost, and I've just learned as a real ass person, like as a real individual, um, my trauma is not something that screams someone loves me, and my trauma is not something that screams someone should basically make that my reason to glorify and show people how fucked up my life is in that contrast. Not to say that my life isn't messed up already, it is. Life is already hard as it is, but if I glorify that my life is being destroyed and show that to other people, side note, that's going to definitely make me look like I'm losing my fucking mind. No disrespect, I know this is a little more dramatic, in what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. That's why it has a lot more, of, adult words in here. But yeah, like, yo, like, you know, we have to really just take into consideration that toxicity, brings out a lot of things in ourselves that isn't even really us, if we really want to boil it down to the nitty and the gritty. Like, it isn't even really us. It is something that is trying to be us, but yet is destroying us at the same time. You know what I'm saying? not to linger just on the same concept of it or just try to, say too much to the whole idea. But that's the reason why I have never really been involved with a lot of toxic people, because what I feel like in the midst of it is um toxicity is a sense of people who are trying to say that their lives are just supposed to be filled with misery. And your life, for some people's lives, is not filled with misery. You feel me? When some people have been through the crap they've been through the destruction of effed up things they've been through, like they've learned to make their life into something that's really good for them. So, in their charisma of how they look at life now, it does not look like this reality of them being somebody who doesn't value their life. It literally looks like they do value their life. They do. They wake up every day, they're happy, they got a smile on their face. The only time they turn and get kind of crazy is if somebody is coming into their life and they're causing friction within their lives that is causing the reason why they are becoming a certain way. But in the midst of that, too, what people have to understand is you cannot be a person who screams that, oh, I don't like toxicity. I don't like being around it, but then you turn around and you say that you love people who are toxic. You turn around and like people who are toxic. What that screams that you don't even realize or communicate is I value being hurt by people so much that I'm not really seeing that I want to get away from toxicity. But if I love a part of that toxicity, then I am saying that I actually am trying to become it. You know what I mean? Even though I'm saying I don't want it, I'm technically saying I want to become it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not pushing it away entirely. you know, and that's what some people have to understand about it. And I mean, I want y'all to really understand this from a real place, man. Like, I'm not trying to tell people that you can't be with toxic people, and I'm not even trying to say that it's the fault of toxic people in the midst of why certain people are certain ways. But what I am trying to communicate is that we have to learn to notice that if somebody is constantly going to cause toxicity into our spaces where we are healing at, we have to learn to say that those spaces need to be free of people who are not toxic in our lives. And yes, that might seem a little crazy to communicate, and it might seem even boring to some people in the generation Z of this age, because they believe sometimes that they don't need to be around somebody who isn't on toxic shit. Like, it just seems like it. And a lot of where they're getting it from anyway is from television. A lot of this whole situation even comes down to, if I'm being transparent, a lot of it is coming from trying to make excitement out of their lives, because their lives are probably really dry in the construct of things. So to spice up their ability of life, they're using the toxicity as a way to spice that up. That's why they have a sense of attraction to it. And that's why when they, if you look at certain TV shows even promote that concept, is that to spice up a situation, be with a toxic person. And brothers and sisters, like, when you really want to get to a space of real healing, you are not going to be hanging around with somebody who is causing you that toxicity all the fucking time. Like, you're really not. Like, you're going to be around somebody who is either going to make it make sense, give you the same peace that you give to them, or you're just, not going to be around a particular person. And, in the midst of this too, y'all, I don't want to tell y'all this to say, like, oh, just be alone, from toxic people, because that's one thing I want you to know. Like, that's how they control you also, is by saying that you can't be with anyone else but me. So to basically be in the same realm of it in some cases, or just to submit to what toxicity causes. You just have to be alone if you don't have the toxicity. And that's not the case at all. You just have to find somebody who has the same peace as you in that reality also. Because if you really put peace and peace together, that is just going to make more peace. That is just going to expand the peace that is there. You see what I'm saying? People expand toxicity, they expand it and make it grow in toxicity. We have to learn to expand in growth and happiness and joy in what we are trying to do with ourselves. And this doesn't come from a place of, guess what, cupcakes and rainbows. This isn't me trying to give you a cupcake and rainbow reality, brothers and sisters. This is me trying to just say that if we are able to have a piece on one end with a male and a piece on another end with a female, that can become a force that can be very strong in the world today. And a lot of people only don't want that to happen because they believe that, whether we know it or not, they believe that the reality should be the opposite. Is that toxic people should be on top, and people who value trying to give us peace should be on the bottom. And that's why they even say nice guys finish last and all this other weird shit that the world has communicated. Brothers and sisters, what we have to really understand is when we actually cut the veil of what we're trying to get to in our world today, is we need to see that expanding good is not to expand good for this case of trying to be cupcakes and rainbows. Expanding good is just so that humans can heal from their traumas and their problems, because we're never going to get anywhere in life if we keep choosing the same routes of toxicity over and over again and expecting different results. We're going to drive ourselves completely out of our fucking mind, literally, if we choose to just think that's the only way we need to be, or that's the only thing we need to be around. So yeah, y'all, it's just something to think about when you really put it into perspective about this concept of toxicity. I want to thank y'all for tapping into the YMDR podcast. I also want to thank y'all for just letting me have a topic to speak on about it in the midst of the situation. If you on YouTube, man, what you should do is you should like, share, comment. Let me know what you think about toxicity in the midst of the situation. You can let me know in the comments below. You can just tell me some things about what you feel about the situation. I'm gladly welcome to hear it. YMDR podcast is a podcast of just, I speak about concepts of things because I feel like they're just things that come to my mind about certain topics that I hear online, and I like to just give y'all some game on what I feel is coming from these particular topics, and hopefully they give y'all something to help about, or something to just give you an idea about. I'm not God. I'm not trying to change your perspective. I'm just trying to give a different solution. So, brothers and sisters, I will tap back in with y'all another time on the podcast. This has been the YMDR podcast. I will see y'all next time. Much love. Stay impacted, never controlled, as I usually say.